But yes, I have been in arguments with my sister.
And you have wanted to run away for days, right?
Sure.
And not have her there fighting with you.
Sure.
Whitney Heard may have been Amber's ride or die, but it seems as though Whitney's eyes are beginning to get a glimpse of Amber's lies. What is this all about? Well, keep watching to find out. While Amber and her legal team are preparing to fight for victory in a trial redo, Amber Heard's sister, Whitney Heard, has stated that her faith in humanity has been called into question since the U.S. verdict. The reason Whitney thought about this could possibly relate to how Amber has done a terrible job of holding the family's reputation. Besides, if the Aquaman actress wasn't aggressive towards JD, there wouldn't have been a need for this long legal toggle between the two celebrities, and of course, Amber's family name wouldn't be tarnished. But thanks to Amber, she messed that up. Meanwhile, judging by how cunning Amber and her sister are, Whitney gave the entire public the impression that her total support still goes to Amber. How? Well, Whitney showered appreciation for a new open letter signed by over 140 experts and organizations condemning the ramifications of the Johnny Depp defamation verdict. Recently, an open letter was published, signed by figures like Gloria Steinem, Constance Wu, and Alan V., Pharaoh director Amy Ziering, plus groups like the National Women's Law Center, Women's March Foundation, and more, stating, "We condemn the public shaming of Amber Heard and join in support of her. We support the ability of all to report intimate partner and sexual violence free of harassment and intimidation." But here's where it gets interesting. Whitney reacted to the support on Instagram, saying it gave her a much-needed breath of fresh air more than 5 months after the June 1st verdict. To simply say that my faith in humanity has been called into question since the trial verdict would be a gross understatement. Not only did it highlight some pretty major flaws in the judicial system, it also showed just how deeply misogynistic this world is and how harassment of anyone who speaks out or has a differing opinion is just simply accepted. Just take a look at some of the comments on my posts, and undoubtedly this one. She wrote, "You may already know that Whitney has 2 children with husband Gavin Henriquez, Hunter, and Harlan Willow." She continued in her post, "It's a world that I'm scared to raise my kids in, and every day it just seems harder and harder to navigate and deal with." Until today, Heard's sister concluded, seeing this letter signed by over 130 experts and organizations now was a much-needed breath of fresh air. Finally, the tides are shifting. Finally, #Istin with Amber Heard. For those unversed, Whitney was literally the only closest person to Amber that testified on behalf of the actress. She told the court of how her relationship with Depp went from good to terrible, and in all her testimony, fans could see right through her as they concluded that she was as pretentious as her sister. In fact, Whitney claimed that Depp hit her and gave her an NDA to not mention it.
To sign.
There was an NDA on my kitchen table.
Can you tell the jury what an NDA is?
It's a non-disclosure agreement. It's basically, my understanding is it's a contract to keep things private, to keep your mouth shut, essentially.
All right.
Well, the open letter read, in part, "In our opinion, the Depp versus Heard verdict and continued discourse around it indicate a fundamental misunderstanding of intimate partner and sexual violence and how survivors respond to it. The damaging consequences of the spread of this misinformation are incalculable. We have great concerns about the rising misuse of defamation suits to threaten and silence survivors." The letter concluded by condemning the public shaming of Amber Heard and adding, "We support the ability of all to report intimate partner and sexual violence free of harassment and intimidation. Amber is most certainly doing all she can to gain the public's sympathy, but is it working?" A source close to Depp reported, "This was a 6-week trial with extensive evidence, witnesses, and key experts, all which were carefully considered by the jury when reaching their decision, unanimously ruling in Johnny's favor. This exhausting effort to question the verdict months later is an insult to the jurors as well as to the justice system." In a statement after the verdict, Depp said the jury gave him his life back. He added at the time, "I hope that my quest to have the truth be told will have helped others, men or women, who have found themselves in my situation, and that those supporting them never give up. I also hope that the position will now return to innocent until proven guilty, both within the courts and in the media." Heard, meanwhile, said in her post-verdict statement that she was disappointed with what this verdict means for other women, calling it a setback. And since then, Whitney has tried to steal the spotlight by implying that she's down for her darling sister, but the fans aren't buying. Let's see how they have reacted. A fan commented, "If you all would stop trying to paint a narrative of tides turning, maybe you should step outside and interview real people with no agenda towards either of them." you'll see that the majority doesn't care about Amber because she's a manipulative abuser, like Michelle Donover, while other fans can't help but remind everyone of how Whitney lied to cover up her sister's callous acts, as a fan wrote. Whitney lied? Jennifer Howell, who is an upstanding human being, knows she lied. She heard her lie. I believe Jennifer Howell and Whitney's ex-boyfriend, who heard Whitney tell him the same she told Jennifer. Whitney has no high ground on this. And another added, the same Whitney who told her boss and her ex-boyfriend Amber sliced his finger off and then she moved out to get away from her own sister. The same Whitney who lied in a court of law. Seems she is still frightened of her own sister, sadly. There you have it. The more Amber and her team tries to convince the public that JD was the aggressor, the more cards are stacked up against them. Stay connected with us for more entertainment.